Your machine is powered on. The fans are running. But your monitor isn't getting any signal if you're facing this issue right now. Let me show you a quick solution. Let's go. There are various reasons why your machine is in this state, but before we delve into them, it is important to note that there are specific hardware components responsible for this issue. Number 1, the RAM. Number 2, the camera card. Number 3, the PSU. Number 4, processor. And in worst cases, this could be your main board. However, instead of attributing blame to any specific components, it is advisable to check each one systematically. Before we proceed, I want to remind everyone following these steps. With that said, let's begin. First, let's check the RAM, as they are commonly responsible for monitor signal issues. Before removing the RAM from the motherboard, make sure to power drain your machine. To do this, unplug it from the power outlet and wait until the LED indicator on the motherboard turns off, ensuring that all remaining power is discharged. This precaution helps prevent static discharge and protects your components. All right, remove the RAM from the motherboard. Now just clean the dust from the RAM and the RAM slots, as dust can interfere with clear contact with the motherboard. Use a dry brush like this one for cleaning. After doing so, reinsert the RAM. Power on your machine and see how it goes. If you're still not receiving any signal after this, then we'll proceed to unconventional troubleshooting. I need you to grab an eraser like this and use it to clean the dark residues on the RAM circuit connectors. This way, these dark residues prevent the motherboard from detecting the RAM, so we need to clean them thoroughly once you have cleaned the dark residues with the eraser. Make sure to brush off any eraser dirt before reinstalling the RAM in your machine. After reinstalling the RAM, you turn on your machine, and you should have a monitor signal at this point. One of the reasons your machine has no display could be the camera card. The troubleshooting process is similar to the RAM sticks. First step, power drain your machine. Unplug it and hold the power button for a few seconds. Second step, try checking the camera card by removing it from the PCIe slot, just like how we did with the RAM. Third step, clean the gold connectors using a dry brush or an eraser to remove dust or oxidation, same method as with the RAM. Fourth step, reinsert the camera card firmly into the slot, ensuring a proper connection. Lastly, power on the machine and check if the display returns. If the issue persists, try a different PCIe slot or swap with another camera card to confirm if the card itself is faulty. If your machine still doesn't work, then the power supply might be the issue, especially if the problem started suddenly. A failing power supply can cause the machine to power on but not provide enough power for proper operation. It is important to use a power supply tester like this to assess the power supply stability. Remember, just because the fans are running doesn't mean that the power supply is providing enough power for the entire system. So be sure to test the power supply with a power supply tester. Alternatively, if you have a spare working power supply at home, use that to power your machine. Instead, if it turns on and provides monitor signal, then it's clear that your power supply is the problem. If your machine still doesn't work, let's check the processor, as a faulty or improperly seated processor can cause a no display issue. Carefully remove the heatsink and fan assembly. After removing the heatsink, check if the thermal paste has dried out. Dried or unevenly applied thermal paste can cause overheating, preventing the processor from functioning properly. If the paste is dry, clean it off using isopropyl alcohol and apply a fresh layer before reinstalling the heatsink later. Next, let's reseat the processor. Unlock the processor socket latch and gently remove the processor. Now, check for any dust, debris, or thermal paste residue on the processor contacts. If you see any, clean it carefully with a dry brush or an anti-static cloth. For Intel processors, check if there are any bent pins on the motherboard socket. Bent pins can cause connection issues leading to no display. If you find any bent pins, try to straighten them carefully using a needle or tweezers. After checking, carefully reinsert the processor into the socket, ensuring it aligns properly with the notches or markings on the socket. Secure the latch and reinstall the heatsink and fan. Now, power on the machine and see if the display works. If you're still not receiving any signal, listen for beep codes. Beep codes can help identify which component is causing the issue. Here's a quick reference table for common motherboard beep codes and their solutions. If your motherboard has a speaker buzzer, a series of beeps can indicate a processor issue. If there's no beep at all, it could mean the motherboard or processor has failed. If possible, test the processor on a different compatible motherboard. If it works there, then your original motherboard might be the issue. If the processor still doesn't work, it may need to be replaced. Alright, that's it for this video. I hope this guide helped you troubleshoot your machine's no display issue. If you found this useful, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.